Okay, I have with me here 5, or actually 6 art books I have been gifted over Christmas. I think they would be really good to show you. We're gonna go through them in this video and you'll be able to see into these pages. Consider maybe getting one yourself because these are extremely inspiring books. Yeah, typically during Christmas and on my birthday, sometimes I'll ask for gadgets and things that I need, camera equipment maybe, but a lot of the time I ask my family and friends for art books. I think they're great investments. They can expand your mind, give you loads of new creative ideas and creative ways of seeing things when it comes to making artwork and animation. I myself am an animator, so I'm always looking for new inspiration. I have a mystery book here that I'll show you at the end. It's still in its box, so you can try and take a guess what that is. What you're gonna see inside these is gonna be very inspiring. I actually wanna start with the book that hasn't been gifted to me. I actually bought this book myself, but I have been reading it and I haven't finished it yet, so I thought I should at least mention it, and it has been extremely beneficial to me and it's given me a lot of new perspectives. It's by Bill Plympton, who is the king of indie animation, and I think he really lives up to that title. This guy almost single-handedly creates feature films, storyboards them, animates them. He's one of the most prolific indie animators. A lot of illustrations, but it's also got a lot of text, and the way he writes, I think, is very refreshing. It's really infused with his personality. He's got a great sense of humor. This book is written for up-and-coming animators, and it gives a lot of his advice and wisdom that's been gained over a career of indie animation. Indie meaning he gets the funding for his own films, his own concepts, creates them, makes them in film festivals, runs his own animation business, really has just gone his own way, gone his own path in life, and he never had to really sell out for a big company or anything. He is creating films according to his own vision and his own personality. He's got a great sense of humor. It's a bit crude. And in this book, there's a lot of really useful material. One of the pages that I've bookmarked here, you can see a marketing plan and a budget plan laid out for his animation productions. He actually tells you some of the things that you probably won't find anywhere else: how to pitch your animation to investors, how to finance it, what kind of budget you would need, storyboard planning, an entire philosophy on producing and directing animation. I can't recommend this book enough, and I haven't even finished it. I'm maybe 3/4 of the way through, or maybe half the way through. This has been really an amazing find for me. I wanted to show that one first before we get into the book haul. That's the first one out the way. Now we've got the 5 books that I was actually gifted. Starting with this book. So this is called The Other World, Asian Myths and Folklore Illustrations. Now, when I first opened this book, I couldn't flick all the way through the book because it was too overwhelming. The amount of beautiful illustrations and artwork that I had never seen before. An absolute inspiration from cover to cover. It's kind of an anthology of different illustrators and different artists. A lot of these illustrators I had never heard of before because they're from the other side of the world to me, are all depicting myths, legends, folklore, and so they're all telling stories. Some of these stories I was not aware of, so I'm learning so much on every page. We have a huge variety of different amazing artists. I'm just going to continue to flick through these pages so that you can witness some of this for yourself in just the colors, composition, textures, lines. A pull out here, so I can actually pull that out to be a full. This is exactly the type of inspirational material I'm looking for, something that's going to ignite my imagination on every page. to series illustrations, illustrated stories. So a bit more on the backstory of me getting this book. I actually came across this book in a really nice bookshop when I was traveling in Copenhagen. I really liked this book, but I didn't have space for it in my bag to buy. Took a picture of it. My girlfriend was there as well, so she also was taking pictures in this bookshop. Remembered this book, sent it to my mum, who then ordered it and gave me it for Christmas. So thank you to my mum for that. I'm so happy with this book. Okay, on to the next book. So this is a very different book. This was given to me by my dad. I asked my dad to get me this book. I found out about this book from taking a masterclass in game design, funnily enough, by Will Wright, who is a famous game designer. He created the Sims games, and he also created Spore and some other famous games, and I find this guy to be really fascinating. He's a great teacher, and he has so many very unique ideas and points of view, and I've been just soaking up his lessons on Masterclass. And one of the books he mentioned in his lessons is Maps of the Mind. Very esoteric book, very strange. It's a bit out there, I have to warn you. Essentially, you have many psychologists, writers, philosophers. It basically summarizes their ideas, their big ideas, in diagrams of the human mind, or the cranium. Very interesting ways to summarize concepts. And I do really like the illustrations, mapping things within the mind. Once you've seen these diagrams, you can see them and say, what is going on there? And then you can read the concept which is trying to be depicted. So this is Descartes, Newton, and Darwin. Very famous names in this. Max Weber, very famous name in sociology. A lot of far-reaching concepts in this, and that's what I really like. I like a book like this every now and then to really expand what I'm thinking of, reach out into many different areas of psychology. Carl Jung, you see, it's a diagram. So I'm looking forward to getting into this book more. It's the diagrams that really drew me into this book. I think the diagrams are excellent, and very ambitious diagrams to try and contain an entire theory inside a diagram of the human mind. Use art as a way to access other concepts, theories, epistemology, philosophy, psychology, sociology. This is a really good jumping off point because, I mean, it has pictures, doesn't it? And I like a book with pictures. So that's Maps of the Mind. Next book. I've been meaning to get a book of Gustave Dore for a long time now. This is one of my favorite illustrators. Until now, I've only had JPEG images of his work on my computer. An artist like Dore, who I take a lot of inspiration from, I really should have a book on my shelf of his. This is the one that I wanted because this guy was a prolific artist. He made a lot of different illustrations, but my favorites are the Divine Comedy, Dante's Inferno. Two of the major things I like about his etchings are the lighting and the compositions of each one. Everything is made out of lines. And I really like this because it means that everything has a direction to it. It's just astounding, quality of these illustrations and how dramatic they are. I find them very moving in a way. Like, a lot of the time they're very sad images and they're very, very dramatic. Every page of this is a masterclass in composition and in lighting and values. The contrast always draws your eye to something first, and then from that area of contrast, your focus can reach out into the other parts of the illustration. Dore was an illustrator in the 1800s, made a lot of illustrations during his lifetime. I think he died in his 50s, if I remember correctly. Look at the gesture of these figures. Look at the lighting here. Kind of terrifying, quite haunting images, really. And I'm going to try and link all of these books in the description, so you can just click the link and it will take you hopefully to your country's Amazon page, where you'll be able to check out the price and consider getting one of these for yourself or gifting it to someone else. One of the things I learned from Dore was, if you want to make this scene feel massive, you can make these figures smaller. Those two figures are tiny there, and it makes the whole scene feel really big and epic. It increases the scale of the location. But that's enough time spent on Dore illustrations for Dante's Divine Comedy. Next book. I cheated a little bit on this one. This is not a gift that I received, but it's a gift that I gave. Wildlife, the life and work of Charley Harper. Now, I gifted this book to my dad. It was a present for him, but it was also a present for me, because I knew that I could borrow this book from him whenever I wanted. So it's also a bit of a gift to myself. My dad is a craftsman, he is a designer. He creates stained glass panels, stained glass windows. And so I'm always looking for these more graphic illustrations. Designers like Sol Bass lend themselves very well to stained glass artwork because they feel flat. So I believe Charley Harper, like Sol Bass, probably used cutouts quite a lot. This is a very big book. I didn't expect it to be this big. It barely fits in the frame here. I don't think it will fit in the frame entirely. It's all about nature. So the really cool thing, I think, with this book is that Charley Harper, he wasn't looking at other artists, other illustrators so much. He was looking directly at life to make these designs. So he was going to life itself. And I find it funny when people say, oh, there's no such thing as an original idea, when really we can look towards nature and go directly to the source and come up with our own interpretations. I think that's what Charley Harper has done in this book. These images and compositions and things are all inspired by nature. Look at this one. He's come up with this design using basic shapes to depict a mother possum with its babies. This is a big book. I have to go quickly. If you're someone who's looking for ideas for shape designs, compositions, advertisement, messaging, this book is a very valuable resource. I'll tell you how I found out about this book. I was listening to a podcast where Glenn Keane was the guest. You probably know, one of the most famous, perhaps the most famous 2D animator ever. He was talking about looking for unique places of inspiration to base his works on. He was giving advice, and one of the books he advised, or one of the illustrators he advised, was Charley Harper. He observes nature and he pulls his own observations from nature, and he thinks to himself, how can I depict that in a simple way with simple shapes? This is just inspired. Look at that. They all form one shape with this single line depicting the crowd of cattle. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's not what I make exactly, but that's why this book is so valuable. So, great book. Charley Harper. I do firmly believe that as animators, we should be looking at what designers are doing a lot more. There's a kind of neglect for design within 2D animation, in my opinion. So, great book. And that brings us on to the last book, the secret one in the cardboard box. So this was gifted by my girlfriend. I'm very thankful to her for getting me this, because she had to carry it a long way in her rucksack. I'm going to show you what it is. Oh, look at that. I love that saturated red for the cover of this. Now, you might still not be able to see who made this book. Maybe if I angle it like this, you'll be able to see it catch the light. Oh no, that's not the name. That's just the 2013 sketch collection. Yep, in tiny writing there, you can see Kim Jung-gi. I'm so happy to finally have a Kim Jung-gi book. I'm very inspired by his work. I have been for many years now, but I've never owned a book of his. I saw him draw in person when I was in California. I was very inspired by that. He was a true master, and I was also very sad to hear that he had passed away earlier this year. Very recently, in fact. And so I believe the value of these books, and probably the value of all of his art, has probably gone up considerably since his death. And so I was lucky to be able to get this book before it got sold out. Again, thanks to my girlfriend. Let's see, in the first page, we get this really cool poster, which is, I believe, the same. Yes, it's the same artwork from the cover, and I could put this on my wall if I wanted to. Most of you know my favorite color scheme is black and red, so I'm really happy with that, and I'll see if there's anywhere that I can put that up. But let's get on to looking at some of these sketches. Needless to say, this book, just like all of Kim Jung-gi's work, it's so inspiring. Not only the sheer amount of drawings, but also the amount of personality which is captured in these drawings, and also the range. I think that this isn't, he's not given enough credit for the stylistic range that he had. With a lot of people talking about him, they'll talk about how he was able to reconstruct engines from memory. He's able to create the very complex motorbikes and machinery from just his mind, from his imagination. He didn't need to be looking at reference while he drew. That's what he's known for, but what he's not necessarily appreciated for very much is how he's able to go from hyper-realistic to extremely wacky and cartoony, literally in the next page. So from one page to another, he can go from extremely gestural, very elegant, minimalist drawings to hyper-detailed, dexterous drawings. This is a famous one where you'll be able to see online a time-lapse of him creating this. I found this piece to be very moving. Now, it feels like when you open this book, like every page is different from the last. It feels like a bit of a journal in a way. Like I've been keeping an art journal myself when I've traveled, and I really like that kind of format. It's different from one page to another. And oh, look at these ones. I just love these gestures. You see? He's able to capture really nice gestures of this figure skater. Amazing. That's one of my favorite pages so far. I think one of the reasons he was able to find such a range, for one thing, is that he pretty much cracked the code of drawing, if you like, which is being able to draw accurately from observation. He's excellent at drawing from observation. And from there, where do you go? Well, I think there's a lot of room to go from there, and he was able to stylize things in a way. So he wasn't just depicting, like here is a very, very accurate, realistic drawing of a tiger, right? But you'll see later in the book at different places, he'll draw a tiger and it will be very cartoony, or he'll draw something that's very caricatured, where he's really pushing and pulling the features of his subjects. Here he's drawing very minimalist, so he's actually omitting some of the details. Look at how he's omitting details here to create something that's more elegant and that's more refined. And this is the kind of stuff he's known for, which is essentially what he's known for as well is using a brush pen. He would start at one corner of an image, and this could be on an entire wall. It could be a really big wall. He'll start at one corner and he'll just start drawing, and he will populate an entire page or an entire wall with these very detailed figures. And what I like about this is that each one is distinctly different from the other. He doesn't draw the same guy twice. And I would find this very difficult personally. I mean, when I make a drawing of a crowd, let's say, typically there will be a character that I kind of fall back on, a design that I know I can produce. I'll just make kind of duplicates. There'll be duplicate characters in the background. And he sees every single person, every single figure in that crowd as an opportunity to create a completely different person with a different personality, with different facial features, with different clothing. So he loved to draw. This is a guy that until he died, it seemed, he just never stopped drawing. This is his 2013 collection. And you know what that means? It means that this entire book was drawn, I believe, was drawn within 1 year. And he has a 2012 collection, he has a 2011 collection. He's got many of these books. This is not the only one. I mean, I think for a lot of us, I could say, like, we'd find this a tremendous achievement to, within our lifetimes, create a book of this thickness with our illustrations. He achieved so much, and I'm very sorry to hear the news, and my thoughts are with his family and friends. And but he left behind so much for us. He left behind tutorials that are online, which I recommend you go and check out. He was a teacher as well as a great artist, and so thankful for all his work and contributions. I've barely scratched the surface of this book, but tremendously inspiring. You see this, he's just making drawings on toilet paper here, literally. He would use anything as a surface. He'd use walls, he'd use cardboard boxes, paper, sketchbook. I suppose he would run out of paper occasionally because of the sheer amount of drawings he would turn out. Anyway, that is Kim Jung-gi's 2013 collection. I'm so happy to have this, but now it's going back in the secret box. That's going on my shelf. These books, you will be able to click the link in the description to see these books. I'm so happy to have all of these books. Very grateful to everyone who gave me an art book this Christmas. Yeah, consider getting one of these for yourself or for a friend who you think needs inspiration. And I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.